Hey there, my name is Przemek, and this is the fifth part of my top 50 favorite dark deep ambient albums list, places 30 to 26. First of all, as always, thanks for watching the previous four parts, and if you haven't seen them yet, I encourage you to do so. I leave the links in the description. Okay, let's begin. Number 30, Robert Rich, A Troubled Resting Place. Robert Rich, one of the great American ambient composers, together with Steve Roach, William Basinski, Harold Budd, and a few others. A lot of albums under his belt. Well, one has already appeared on my list. I'm talking about Stalker, recorded together with Lastmort. It's a place number 40. A lot of different approaches to ambient. Some albums were focused on trances and drones, well, pun intended. Some on rhythms and melodies. Some were darker, some lighter or brighter. And my pick for this list is the album A Troubled Resting Place. And I know it's a collection of songs from various compilations, and well, sticking with this writer's metaphor, it's as if I considered well, as John Steinbeck's best work, say his collection of short stories, but well, that was my dilemma when making this list. Should I also take into account the importance of a given album for the ambient scene, and how it was or is assessed by fans in general? And I came to the conclusion that no, that it would be my personal list, and if someone wants a list of the best of the best, then try looking elsewhere. I don't know, maybe try to compile such a list on Rate Your Music or something, because I really like Robert Rich's work as a whole, but the one that is most important to me is this compilation released by Fathom Records in 1996. However, I must say that I cheat the system just a little bit, because in addition to 5 tracks from various compilations, we also have the entire Night Sky Replies EP, originally released by Amplexus in 1994, and it's a great EP that would definitely be on my list if I was including EPs, So since it's present on a Troubled Resting Place, all the better for this compilation. Otherwise, I would probably include some other Robert Rich album, maybe Sunyata, maybe Trances and Drones, maybe Echo of Small Things, or Calling Down the Sky, maybe Somnium, a peculiar 7 hours sleep time ambient release. I don't know. The vast majority of Rich's albums are ambient of the highest order. A Troubled Resting Place was released in 1996 by Fathom Records, and it contains songs from the period between 1993 and 1995. An exceptionally successful period, even considering the musician's entire career, full of ups and rather no downs. At least I don't remember any. This is Robert Rich at his best, offering deep ambient at a level unattainable for the vast majority of musicians involved in this genre. The style and sound of this musician are inimitable. especially though this kind of wailing drone melodies made with steel guitar or flute, you know, also some field recordings and ethnic instruments which with, well, an ethnic flavor here and there, although it is by no means world music. It's ambient, mystical, dreamy, sometimes dark indeed, but really just sometimes. We also have here one of the most beautiful ambient songs ever. I mean, I think that from now on, each album which will be on this list later will have, well, one of the most beautiful ambient song ever. But in this case, I'm talking about buoyant, motionless deluge, which atmosphere has captivated me for 20 years or so. It's an excellent thing, you know. If you don't know it, you won't even notice that it's a compilation while listening, because a troubled resting place is built in such a way that it gives the impression of a normal, full, regular album. So great album that it deserves a place on my list. Number 30, Robert Rich, A Troubled Resting Place. Okay, number 29. Steve Roach, Atmospheric Conditions. Another great American ambient composer. In Robert Rich case, if I mentioned Steinbeck, then who is Steve Roach? Maybe William Faulkner of ambient. Okay, I'm getting into some heavy metaphors here, so let's stop it right here. Another legend of ambient music with a multitude of albums released over the course of 40 years or even more than 40 years. I don't know. Atmospheric Conditions, an album that is probably not commonly recognized as Steve Roach's best work. I think that The Magnificent Void, also an excellent work, is considered as such. However, I chose Atmospheric Conditions because, well, I love this album and that's it. By the way, just now, after all those years, I noticed the similarity of this cover to Robert Rich's Calling Down the Sky. I wonder if it's a coincidence. Probably it is, but an interesting tidbit. This cover in general fits the title perfectly, and it perfectly reflects the atmosphere of the album. It seems like some kind of atmospheric, weather condition, or rather a phenomenon. I don't know what it is, but this cover has always intrigued me, and it's a perfect example of atmospheric ambient, but in this case the term atmospheric refers not so much to the mood of the music, although that too, but to, as I said, kind of anomalies or phenomena that occur in the atmosphere. The title of the first song, Underground Clouds Over a Secret Grotto, you listen to it and you see underground clouds over a secret grotto. And like this phenomena, this music is abstract, peculiar, but also delightful in a way. The album was released in 1999, and it was released by Time Room Editions. It's Steve Roach's label. These are 3 very long tracks. I mean, there are 5 tracks in total, but the tracks 2 and 3, and later 4 and 5 have the same title, so I treat them as one piece. And I'm almost sure that this album is mostly, if not entirely, improvised. This music just flows. The tracks have no beginning nor end, or even a clear, transparent structure. They sound like a fragment of a larger whole, which would sound quite similar before the beginning or after the end, just like these underground clouds in a secret grotto. You observe them, the changes are minimal, sometimes even imperceptible, but don't get me wrong, it's not an isolationist ambient. This musical canvas itself is very dense and abundant in terms of sounds and layers. It's just it all is morphing in a very slow and extended way, but you can still look at this phenomenon endlessly. This is wonderfully relaxing music. I had days when atmospheric conditions played on loop for several hours at my home, and I recommend checking it this way. Is it Steve Roach's best album? I don't know, but my favorite for sure. Number 29, Steve Roach, Atmospheric Conditions. Time for number 28. Urethral, Arabian Nightmares. And Urethral is another extremely experienced ambient composer from United States, who recorded numerous albums solo as well as in the groups like Asia Nova, Crew or Terminus or Smooth Quality Excrement. I like this name, and several other projects. And I considered the reissue of Asia Nova Burns Alive album to be my favorite that I got to know last year. I talk about it in my video about top albums of 2023. The musician is versatile, who likes different approaches to ambient, and not only ambient, Mother Baldur. And I personally consider Arabian Nightmares to be his magnum opus, although I would be lying if I said that I have heard everything he created under any name. Okay, I probably haven't heard even 20% of it. Arabian Nightmares was originally released in 2004 by this Corporeality Recordings and was reshoot 2 years later in 2006 by Tesco organization. And I think that of all the albums on my list, this one is the most kind of frenetic, restless and tense, because the concept of this album refers to the endless conflict in the Middle East, Baldur, Chicho, religious fanaticism, terror, oil, fight for land, it all comes together in one hot cauldron, and the conflict seems to have no end. And Urthral perfectly captures this atmosphere of the atmosphere of this turmoil, this chaos and horror. The tension is built brilliantly here. The musician does a great job of interweaving atmospheric soundscapes with the passages driven by tribal beats, which at some moments are incredibly nerve-wracking. Ethnic melodies intertwine with perfectly crafted drones, and the album reaches its climax in track 8. Just a moment, I have to let my cat out of the room. Yeah, the track 8, Premonition 9/11, nervous rhythm, desperate melody, sampled screams of terror and the sounds of collapsing buildings. The whole thing makes a stunning impression, and this combination of post-industrial electronics with Middle Eastern moods is nothing new. Bryn Jones as Muslim Gauss was a master in this matter. In fact, the album is dedicated to Bryn Jones. And today Dominic Fernow and his Vatican Shadow successfully operate in this area. Urthral has absolutely nothing to be ashamed in this company, and to be honest, it's hard to compare these projects because each stands out in its own way. Muslim Gauss is more industrial, beat-driven. Vatican Shadow more often refers to electronic club music. And on Arabian Nightmares, Urthral very clearly focuses on ambient, although, as I mentioned, thanks to this dynamic, restless rhythm, it is not an album that suits the nerves, although it must be admitted that in its structure and melody, it's not an album with very high entry threshold. It's not an escapist ambient. It's rooted in the here and now. Today it's boiling again in that region, so Arabian Nightmares hasn't lost any of its relevance. An excellent, sometimes truly terrifying album. I know Urthral is working on a sequel. Can't wait. Number 28, Urthral, Arabian Nightmares. And now number 27. Les Joyaux de la Princesse, Exposition Internationale, Art et Technique, Paris, 1937. I won't read it in French. I learned French for many years, but it was like 30 years ago and I forgot almost everything. Anyway, I have this CD in this edition. Yeah, I know it's a bootleg, but because the actual release was in a spectacular box on vinyl. There was also an official reissue on CDR, also in some kind of box. But I have this 2014 edition, while the original came out in 1998. In general, Les Joyaux de la Princesse is famous for its amazing releases of its albums, boxes with lots of extras, and probably without these extras, this music is not fully experienced, but oh well. Today these editions are available at auctions at really crazy prices. Yeah, today I'm lucky to have smooth transitions from one album to another because although Le Joyeux de la Princesse is not an American but a French project, it is an album deeply rooted in history and real events, just like Arabian Nightmares, because it's like a musical postcard from Exposition Internationale Art et Technique, so, International Exposition of Arts and Techniques, which was held from May 25th to November 25th, 1937 in Paris. A great cultural and commercial event, an eye for the future of Europe. Although the specter of the coming war was already waiting on this event, and you can really hear it all on this album. Le Joyeux de la Princesse has always referred to the turbulent history of Europe, especially France in the first half of 20th century. And this project by Eric Conofal was also famous for his unique ability to create the atmosphere, to recreate the atmosphere of those times using not very sophisticated means of expression. But really, there were plenty of martial industrial or martial ambient projects that conceptually tried to refer to those times, but simply none did or does it as evocatively as Le Joyeux de la Princesse. And this project proves that weaving historical samples into music can also be kind of art, because in their music it works much better, and it's definitely more convincing than on the albums of other projects. The combination of sounds of organ, piano, synths, and samples of speeches and old songs proposed by Le Joyeux de la Princesse is not just an artificial sounding random amalgamation of sounds. No, we get really immersive music that truly takes us back to those troubled times. There's drama, there's a lot of pathos and solemnity, but above all, there's also authenticity. It's almost like a kind of equivalent of archival newsreels with the author's commentary and historical context. You walk through these halls, listen to lectures, admire the technological novelties, and at the same time listen to the news, especially those from Berlin, and somehow realize that the future will not be as bright as you'd wish. It is kind of a conglomerate of dark ambient, neoclassical, and martial industrial or martial ambient. And in fact, if I were making similar lists about these other two genres, I mean neoclassical or martial, I would also include this album on them, probably even higher than on the 27th place, because this is where we are currently, number 27, Le Joyeux de la Princesse, Exposition Internationale Art et Technique, Paris, 1937. And the last one for today, number 26, raison d'être, the stains of embodied sacrifice. So the first appearance of Peter Anderson on this list, and not the last. Raison d'être, the undisputed legend of dark ambient, mainstay of cold meat industry, and later cyclic low, with a short stop at Transgradient Records. I can't say exactly which album of the project it is, because along the way there were also a lot of live albums, reissues, extended editions of previous albums, etc. Anyway, this material is from 2009, and I treat it as a continuation of some kind of metamorphosis from 2006. Let's say that with the album Requiem for Abandoned Souls from 2003, a certain era of the project's career has ended, and with Metamorphosis, another era has begun. I will talk about this earlier stage of raison d'être activity in further episodes of my list. Metamorphosis presented a much more industrial face of raison d'être than previous albums. I mean, sure, on the earlier ones, like The Empty Hollow Unfolds, this industrial machine-like aspect was also noticeable, but not to the same intensity as on Metamorphosis. I remember being quite disappointed with Metamorphosis. Rolling heaps of metal, cracking sheets of metal, creaking sheets of metal, dying machines, nice, but where's the atmosphere, where's this sacred aura? I remembered this project is over, and how wrong I was. Year 2009, The Stains of Embodied Sacrifice, the album is a monument. A powerful album on where Peter Anderson found the golden mean between ambient and industrial elements, and he balanced the proportions perfectly. Everything is here: melancholy, horror, beauty, rust. Want atmospheric soundscapes from the golden era from the 90s? You got it. You want an abandoned factory where the wind blows old sheets of metal? You got it. You want the feeling of the approaching apocalypse and the lack of hope that anything could delay it? You got it as well. In the sixth track, without the shedding, there is no forgiveness. All these elements condense into one piece, giving us one of the greatest 10 minutes in the history of dark ambient. And the last song, The Temple is Eternal Sacred, gives us some light at the end of the tunnel, some seed of hope, but does not change the fact that this is probably the most gloomy and oppressive raison d'être album, but also one of the greatest. Although, let's be honest, it's also one of the most underrated albums of the project. And then also, thanks to this one, I have also learned to like Metamorphosis. Raison d'être will be back on my list in one of the next episodes. We will talk about the earlier era in the history of Peter Anderson's project. But for now, number 26, raison d'être, The Stains of Embodied Sacrifice. Okay, that's it for today. If you like the video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you soon.